Hey everybody, John here from the esports department, just going over, it's kind of a short to medium length video about the groups that were drawn today for the World Championship, what they mean, what value we might be able to get out of those, just general overalls about the World Championship. I imagine a lot of people that are into my content probably already know a lot of this stuff, but follow along, it's interesting stuff. And if you already know this kind of stuff, I'm sorry to you. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to have the play-in stage. If you look at the main event, there's a TBD spot in the 4 groups for the main event. Those are all going to come from the play-in stage. In the play-in stage, there are 2 groups of 5 teams. What will happen with them is that they will play 1 match against each other team in the group, so single round robin. When that is over, one of the teams will be eliminated, whoever's in last. Then the 3rd and 4th place teams will play each other. The first place team in the group will automatically go to the World Championship. So once the 3rd and 4th place teams are done playing each other, the winner will play the 2nd seed from the other group. So let's look at the groups real quick and we'll kind of break down what's likely to happen to kind of give you a better explanation about how that's likely to go down. So Group A, I guess if I was trying to rank these groups, I would say Group A is the harder of the 2 groups. They have INTZ coming from Brazil. If you don't follow Brazil, I guess none of these are really players that you would know. Tay has gotten some attention internationally. Macau, we've seen. But in general, not a team with a lot of big names. A thing I would point out is I do think from the little Brazil I've watched this year and from the word I get from the people that are watching Brazil, Brazil is maybe the worst region or among the worst regions that we have. I think likely INTZ is going to be the worst team in this group. They'll be down there with the next team we're going to talk about, which is Legacy Esports. Legacy Esports from Oceania, essentially Australia or the areas around Australia. BABIP we've seen before. Tally will be known to people who follow that. Tapoon. The teams that come out of Oceania, they never really have any chance to make the main event, but they've usually put up a decent fight. A little bit less so last year than previous years, but I still think probably there's a pretty good chance that Legacy will be able to beat teams like INTZ. Unfortunately, it's probably the only team they're really a favorite to beat. I could see them stealing a win off of somebody like Mad Lions, who's a pretty highly variant team, but in general, I don't think they'll be too much of a threat to be one of the teams we're going to see in the main event. Next up, Mad Lions from the LEC. Most anybody who watches any league content will know about them. A good team. They are a young team. They are a high variance team. I don't think it's necessarily a given that they're going to get out of this. It is extremely likely, I think. They are, for me, the number 1 team in the group, strength-wise. But that's not to say they couldn't show up here with a bad plan, and especially when you have some younger guys with not a lot of experience playing overseas. I could see them having a failure in the play-in stage here, but they feel like the number 1 seed in this group to me. Next, we have Supermassive. Supermassive, interesting. Zeitnot and Snowflower have been around forever. Armut has been around forever. Balulu, I don't believe we've seen at Worlds before. Let's just double check, because I can't remember if we've seen Balulu at Worlds. Yeah, not at Worlds. The rest of the team should be pretty well known to people. Armut, Snowflower, Zeitnot, and then Kakao is an absolute legend coming out of Korea. Played in Korea for years and years, an absolute legend of the game, so he should be the most well-known of this team. This is a good team, man. I mean, Turkey, they're not quite competitive with the major regions, but this is a good team, and I wouldn't be super surprised at all if it ended up being Mad and Supermassive, or even Team Liquid and Supermassive that got out of this group. They're feisty. They could definitely find a way to beat a team like a Mad Lions or a Team Liquid. I wouldn't write them off the same way I'm kind of writing off INTZ and Legacy. Team Liquid, the North American representative, is last there. The only thing I worry about with Team Liquid is they haven't shown a proclivity to play like super aggressively in the early game, and they're going to be up against a lot of that in this group. I think Supermassive, INTZ, Mad Lions, all capable of teams that are capable of bringing it in the early game. Legacy a little bit less so, but still, I would be a little bit worried with their ability to handle the early game. I would still place them as the number 2 team in this group. I would say the most likely result for this group for me is Mad Lions comes first, Team Liquid comes second, Supermassive comes third, Legacy comes fourth, INTZ comes last. Supermassive beats INTZ beats Legacy in the 3-4 match, and then we'll have Team Liquid playing against the other group, and Supermassive playing against the 1 seed from the other group, or the 2 seed from the other group. Let's look at the second group real quick so we can see what those matchups might be. First, we have LGD from China. I know a lot of people hate LGD, but honestly, LGD for me is still the clear number 1 seed in this group. They're still, I think, a very good team. Peanut is a fantastic jungler. I think Kramer hasn't had the best season, but he's still a pretty solid AD carry. I think ZA, as bad as he is in China, he's playing against like a bunch of the best mids in the world all the time in China. I think he's going to be a little bit more successful when you see him playing against the likes of Rainbow 7 and V3, and PSG Talon's a little bit of a different story, but I still think LGD should be looking pretty good in this competition. I'm not worried about them. They're my number 1 seed in this group for sure. Next, PSG Talon. People will recognize some people from this group. River, Kaiwing, Unified, Hanabi, all guys we've seen around. PSG Talon is coming from the PCS, which is the combined, the former LMS. And we've seen these players. We saw them at, use my brain, MSI. We saw this team, or not MSI, the Mid-Season Cup. Saw them there. We've seen these guys at MSI before. We have seen them at Worlds before. So you got some good veteran guys here who are good, and I think this team is easily the number 2 seed in this group. Next, Rainbow 7. They're coming from Latin America. This is, I think, probably among the weakest regions that we have, along with Brazil, Oceania, and Japan. I think are going to end up being the weakest regions that we have. I don't think Rainbow 7 is much of a threat to get out of this group. In fact, I think they're probably even below V3, who's going to be from Japan. V3 has Boogie, who we've seen before. I think the Japanese region is coming along a little bit, and you can see they have 2 imports here, Boogie from Korea and Archer from Korea as well. I actually think V3 is not that bad, and I think I would actually give them the edge over Rainbow 7 as far as who's going to come 4th in this group. The 3rd seed from this group, I think, is going to be Unicorns of Love. Boss, an absolute monster in the top lane. Ananasik, who's been one of the best junglers in the world for a few years now, has been at the World Championships before. Same with No Man's. And then Gadget and Santos in the bot lane. It's possible that Unicorns of Love could find themselves in the top 2. I'm going to put them at 3rd for the moment, with V3 coming 4th and Rainbow 7 coming 5th. So if that was the case, then how this would play out is LGD and Mad Lions would both go directly to the main event. Then Supermassive would play against PSG Talon, and Unicorns of Love would play against Team Liquid. If that's the case, it seems like the Supermassive and PSG Talon matchup is very, very good and could kind of go either way. And so is the Unicorns of Love Team Liquid matchup, to be honest with you. Ananasik has been in better form in the last year than Broxah for sure. Boss will have an advantage in his lane. I don't think the mid lane is a walkover. The bot lane is pretty close. I mean, Team Liquid's still fielding a rookie AD carry. I could see the Unicorns of Love beating Team Liquid in a matchup there, and I could see Supermassive beating Talon. So that's the most interesting setup for me, is who wins those 2 versus 3 matchups. I do think we'll see LGD and Mad Lions. If we see Mad Lions against Unicorns of Love, that could be really interesting too. If Team Liquid came out of this group first and we saw Mad Lions against Unicorns of Love, that could be kind of exciting. But that's kind of what I would expect from the play-ins. Now let's quickly look at where these teams could fit in the main event, because you cannot be put into a main event group with somebody else from your region. So like if LGD gets out of their group here, there's only one group they can go into. Suning is in Group A, JDG is in Group B, the Top Esports is in Group D, and so Group C is the only place that LGD can go, which will turn off the ability for anybody else to go into there if LGD gets through. If Mad Lions get through, they can't go into Group A because G2 is there. They can't go into Group B because Rogue is there, which means they would get slotted into Group D. DRX, FlyQuest, Top Esports, and Mad Lions in the 4th spot, which makes that just a really, really fun group as well. LGD going into this group, I think, is perfect because Group C is a group where I think like 3 of the 4 teams are roughly on the same level. If LGD gets in there, with Gen G just maybe being a slight step above everybody, but everybody else is pretty close, and this could be a pretty spicy group. If that was the case, let's then assume that Team Liquid and Talon are the other 2 teams that get out. The other teams could only go into these groups. Team Liquid and Talon can go into any group, and Team Liquid cannot go into the 2 groups that we already discussed. So they would just be randomly drawn between A and B. They would want to avoid B if they could help it. But let's go ahead and go talk about the world's main event groups for just a moment. Move this over here because we're going to discuss some odds in a minute. So in the main event groups, we're looking at Group A, G2, Machi, and Suning. This is probably the easiest group. G2 should be pretty safe to get out of this group. Machi is not a pushover team. Mission, Gemini, Koala, PK, we've seen all these guys before. They're definitely not pushovers. That said, I think they're still the 3rd best team in this group right here, and they have the ability to be the 3rd or 4th best team, depending on who comes out of the play-ins and joins this group. Suning, I think, will probably be underrated by people, but G2 should be the best team in this group, should be able to get out. Suning, I think, likely to be the 2nd best team in this group, depending on who comes out of the play-ins. But I think it's likely to be Suning to be the 2nd best team in this group. If somebody like Team Liquid came out and popped into this group, I forgot, PSG Talon actually cannot come into Group A because Machi is there. So Talon would have to go into Group B, and Team Liquid would have to go into Group A. That would give Team Liquid a shot if Team Liquid came into here. I don't think they're better than Suning or Machi, actually, but I think that they have a legitimate shot at beating those 2 teams. I would still make them an underdog in all the matchups against G2, Machi, and Suning. So likely to be G2 and Suning getting out of this group. But, I think this group's open up enough. If anybody I think G2 probably gets out. The other 3 spots, I think, kind of a little bit open. Group B, Damwon, JDG, and Rogue. So you have 2 of the top 3 teams in the world, probably. Damwon and JDG, I think, are both pretty much, no matter how happy or unhappy you are with various teams, you have 2 of the top 4 or 5 teams in the world. I personally think they're 2 of the top 3. You might say they're 2 of the top 4 or 2 of the top 5. Rogue, a really unfortunate draw for them. If PSG Talon gets through and gets into this group, or whoever gets into this group, it's pretty tough for them as well. Very, very likely, I would say that JDG and Damwon are the 2 teams that get out of this group. Going down to Group C, Fnatic, Gen G, Team Solo Mid, and we think we're likely to see LGD as the 4th team to join this group. If that's the case, like I say, I think Gen G is a half step above everybody. The other 3 teams are all pretty close. For me, they would rank out Gen G, Fnatic, LGD, TSM. If you wanted to switch LGD and Fnatic, that wouldn't bother me. But for me, I think it's Gen G, Fnatic, LGD, TSM. And if that does end up being the group, then this one's definitely a banger. I mean, this is just a really, really fun group where anybody could get out. There's no combination of 2 teams that you could tell me get out of this group, and I would be that surprised. That said, I think TSM would be an underdog against everyone, Gen G a favorite against everyone, and Fnatic and LGD in the middle. Going down to the 4th group, DRX, FlyQuest, Top Esports. We assume that Mad Lions end up getting slotted in here. If that's the case, I think Top Esports and DRX are your 2 most likely to get out. Mad Lions would be my 3rd choice, and I would put FlyQuest in 4th. I know FlyQuest has had a heck of a run this season. I just don't see them getting out of this group, especially if Mad Lions come in here as well. That's not an easy team to have as your 4th wildcard team. I really struggle to see how FlyQuest gets out of this group, to be honest with you. I could maybe see Mad Lions sneaking out, but really for me it feels like DRX and Top Esports most likely to get out of this group. So if I'm correct, then we'll see all 3 of the 4 Chinese teams with only LGD missing from the 3rd group. We will see 3 Korean teams. Correct? Let's see. DRX, Gen G, Damwon. Yeah. Let's see all 3 Korean teams get out. No North American teams, unfortunately. And 2 European teams with Fnatic and G2 getting out of their respective groups. Mad Lions and Rogue both missing. So that would be my expectation going to the knockout stage. Let's look at what the odds look like just to see what that makes us think about. So, Top Esports sitting at 175 to win the event. I just don't think you can touch that. That's too low. There's too many teams in this event that can win a best out of 5, and plus 175 is just not good enough. Plus 275 for Damwon feels really similar to me. Even if they find themselves in the top 4, they're going to have 2 like even money at best of 5s against 2 very, very good teams, and that's if they find themselves in the top 4, which there's always a team or two at Worlds that shows up and just doesn't look as good as we thought and gets stomped on, and who knows if that's going to be Damwon Gaming. Moving to JDG, plus 450 is where I start to get a little interested, but even plus 450 feels too low. If you sorry guys, I have no idea why, but just a random ad just started playing in the middle of nowhere and completely ruined my train of thought there. But looking at the odds, so JDG, if you could get them at this plus 650 number, that's a number where I'm starting to get a little bit more interested. I locked these in. If you watched the Gold Card podcast, I locked these in quite a bit ago, and the odds were a lot better. I got Damwon at plus 400 instead of plus 275. I got G2 at plus 1400. And then even the other 2 teams that I kind of looked at, Gen.G and DragonX, great odds on them as well. So I think those are, Gen.G and DragonX are still teams I'm looking at, 1400 to 1800. Suning, probably not at plus 2000. I think you could maybe try Fnatic at 3000. Fnatic's reasonable chance to find themselves. Before I saw the groups, I would have been more likely to look at Fnatic. They're in kind of a mishmashed group where I probably don't think I'm messing with them. So for me, my favorite bets, Gen.G at 1400 makes some sense. DragonX at plus 1800 makes some sense. If you wanted to splurge on Suning, you could try that out. There's a reasonable chance they get out of their groups. And if you get a team in the playoffs at plus 2000, I feel like you've already won, basically. But Gen.G and DragonX are the 2 teams I think are not only favorites to find themselves in the top 8, but will probably be favorites to find themselves in the top 4, depending on their matchups. And if you can get a team in the top 4 at 14 or 1800, you're going to feel like you got a huge win there. We're looking at winners region, LPL at minus 140, LCK plus 175. So if we look back at the groups and what we were determining about the teams getting out of the groups, we determined that I think 3 LPL teams and 3 LCK teams are getting out of their groups. It seems fair to take the LCK at plus 175. If you're going to have 3 teams in the top 8, same as the LPL, all those teams are definitely capable of beating each other. I don't think there's anyone who would say that Damwon or DragonX or Gen.G can't beat Top Esports or JDG or especially Suning. I think they'd be favorites against Suning. So I think plus 175 for LCK makes a little bit of sense. If you were going to bet LEC at 500, I think I'd rather just bet G2 at 650 because I really doubt you're going to see anybody else win. Group A winner, they've got G2 at minus 175, Suning at plus 140, and then Machi is 10,000 with the play-in team being only 2,000. How wild is that? The play-in team is 5-1 better than Machi. I don't think Machi's going to win, but 10,000 seems kind of absurd. I feel like you could definitely bet Machi at 10,000. I haven't done that yet. I actually hadn't looked at these odds. They just popped up after the groups were announced, so I'm looking at these live with you, and this just seems 10,000 is just way too high. Way too high. I don't think I'll bet G2 because I think it's completely reasonable that G2 would come second in this group to Suning, or maybe even to the play-in team if the play-in team is playing well, if it's someone good and they're playing well. So I don't think I like these other ones. Machi, I don't have any problem betting at plus 10,000. That's just ridiculous. Group B winner, Damwon at minus 135, JDG plus 120. Play-in team and Rogue at some pretty large numbers, but those are 2 I just don't really see happening. You could test the waters with JDG if you want. It's basically going to come down to who's going to win this matchup. I think I just hold off and let this one play out. I don't think I'm going to make a bet one way or another. If I could get even money on Damwon, I would probably take even money on Damwon. But yeah, that one just doesn't seem like a bet to me. Going to Group C, Team Solomid is plus 900 to win the group, where the play-in team is plus 350. And they've baked in the fact that the play-in team that would go to this group is likely to be LGD, who's pretty good. LGD and Fnatic, it almost feels like you could just double bet those and try to make 1.5 units, but Gen G can just spoil the party too easily, and Gen G's not really a team that just gives up games for no reason, so this one also feels kind of like a no bet to me. I know some people in the chat were talking Team Solo Mid and saying this was a disrespectful number. I really don't think so, man. I really don't think this team ever wins this group, almost ever. I could see them getting out of this group, finding some good matchups against Fnatic or LGD, having a good game plan. I just don't see them just winning this group. It just doesn't feel feasible to me. So, I mean, if they cash that, awesome. I'll actually just pat everybody on the back if they do that, but it just doesn't seem likely to me. In Group D, Top Esports at -400, DRX at +300. I kind of like DRX at +300 here. A lot of disrespect for DRX, but Top Esports has some real weaknesses, man. They have some real weaknesses. For me, they're not like JDG. JDG for me is a very solid all-around team that has very few things that they do wrong. Top Esports has some things they do exceptionally well and some things they do wrong. I could see Top Esports coming out of this group in second. DRX at +300 feels bettable. FlyQuest at +10,000. They're really trying to bring me into FlyQuest because 10,000 is just such an absurd number to win a 4-team group. It's one of those things that the book is relying on you never actually realizing your value, because you're getting the value there for sure. Like, if they actually played this tournament enough times for that bet to play out, that's definitely a good bet on FlyQuest. They're definitely capable of coming in here with a game plan that people aren't ready for and winning this group. It's not gonna happen very often, but it's gonna happen enough that +10,000 is just ridiculous. So I think it's a good bet. It's almost certainly going to lose you money, but I think it's a good bet. I think I won't mess too much with the champion props, because I'm just not as good at this stuff as some other people. Come on down to the esports department and read Gelati's stuff, or come to the Discord and talk to the guys in the Discord. I think they have a better grasp on these champion things than I do, so I'm not going to bother with that for now. But those would be kind of some things that stuck out to me. There were some other bets this morning that are gone now that were really, really nice, that I thought we were going to be able to go over in this video, but they don't appear to be here anymore, which is the point of elimination. They had bets on, when will Team Liquid be eliminated? When will whatever be eliminated? And there was definitely some value there that I thought we were going to be going over in this video, but they don't seem to be here anymore. They've been replaced by the Group A winner bets. So we'll just pop off for that. Hopefully this was useful for somebody, or there was some information that was useful for people, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.